President Obama says he's looking for when it comes to relationships with Latin America. And that includes sitting down across the table from Cuba for the first time in decades. The president keeping a pretty busy schedule at the Summit of the Americas in Trinidad. 34 nations are taking part there, among them Venezuela. With the handshake now seen round the world, Presidents Hugo Chavez and Barack Obama meeting for the very first time. Fox's senior White House correspondent Major Garrett is traveling with the president today, and Chavez rushed the handshake onto his own website and gave the president a book today. Does the White House think Chavez is a publicity hound? Let's go to Major for details on that.
In a word, Kelly, the White House does think that Chavez is a publicity hound. They think he's tried to leverage these two chance encounters with President Obama. They haven't had what's a bilateral meeting, which is a formal sit-down conversation. They haven't even had a chance lengthy conversation with the White House is open to with other leaders throughout the region. And Ambassador Jeffrey Davidow, who was the president's special assistant for this entire Summit of the Americas, told Fox that Chavez has a habit of trying to prop himself up. Let's take a listen.
Well, I think the Venezuelan leader is always wanting to make a splash. That's what he does. And he does it pretty well. He's captured the interest of the press. I think the fact that our president shook his hand and smiled doesn't constitute a new relationship.
Well, the White House says is the president would like to see better relations with the Venezuelan government, but it's going to have to make some concrete moves diplomatically for that to happen. First and foremost, returning the U.S. ambassador to Venezuela, which the Venezuelan government kicked out about 6 months ago. Kelly?
And, you know, Major, one of the themes there right now is the growth of democracy in the region. How does Chavez's moves to consolidate his power fit in with that?
Not very well. Ambassador Davidow told me, look, in Venezuela, Chavez runs basically everything, and he's taken moves just recently. As a matter of fact, yesterday, a court under his supervision locked up the assets of the chief opposition leader in Venezuela, Manuel Rosales. And the administration says it's concerned about that. And Ambassador Davidow told me, you know, if this meeting had been held 20 years ago, half of the leaders here would have been wearing uniforms. They would have been military dictators. Everyone in the region is now elected. And he said, though Chavez is elected, his consolidation of power is a concern and an impediment to better relations with the U.S.
A concern indeed. Finally, Major, let's talk about Cuba. Been a lot of talk about that country. What's the bottom line from the president on better relations with Cuba? Who has to make the next move?
Cuba has to make the next move, and it's important to point out, Kelly, Cuba is not here. It's the only nation in the hemisphere not invited. It's not a member of the Organization of American States, though many nations here would like it to be one. Many nations here want the United States to end the trade embargo with Cuba, accelerate better relationships with the Cuban government, the communist government there. But the administration said we've taken steps, loosened up family travel restrictions, family remittances back to the island. But Cuba must make concrete moves to liberalize press freedoms, to release political prisoners, and to make other political reforms before the administration will do anything else to further relationships. The president and his advisors say there are no plans for a trip to Cuba. Really, Cuba has to take some steps. Yesterday, Raul Castro, the de facto leader, said they're willing to discuss, quote-unquote, everything with the U.S. The United States administration is waiting to hear back from the Cubans about when and in what context those conversations might occur.
Major Garrett from Trinidad. By the way, if you want to follow Major's story and other developments that are now going on, make sure you get online to foxnation.com. Thanks, Major.